All right, this is Deanna Marie, and welcome back here to the Clusie. And today we're going to be talking about how you need to learn how to be content with what God gives you. Okay, so let's get started. All right, today's Bible verse is going to be Philippians 4,
verse 11 through 12.
Okay, so make sure you guys open up the Bible and get in the Word and let Him talk to you about what He wants to talk to you, pray, and open up the lines of communication, okay? Now, that being said, this is Paul speaking, and he is talking about how he knows what it's like to be super poor, and he knows what it's like to be super wealthy. He knows what it's like to be hungry, and he knows what it's like to have like a full cupboard full of food, okay? So what does that mean? In the end, he says he knows how to be content with what he's given in the moment, okay? So for you, I really, really hope that you guys learn how to be content with what God gives you. So like when you pray for something or you have, say you're praying for a spouse, God gives you a spouse, right? He gives you that husband or that wife that you've been desiring, right? Do not start looking at other people's wives or husbands and comparing, because you never know what's going on in that other person's life. You know, you're just getting an outside view, and you need to learn how to be content with what you're given, because God gave it to you for a reason. It's yours. It's something that He desires for you to have that's going to lead to you being content in the end. And so you need to learn how to be grateful. One, be grateful. Two, be humble. And make sure that you don't start coveting and comparing. Like, oh my gosh, well, this person has more money over here. If I had that amount of money, my life would be so much better. No, some of you guys need to stop worrying about that specifically, like finances and stuff like that, because if you think that billionaires have life so much easier, sometimes, yes, there's certain aspects. Having a lot of money makes certain things easier, but there's other things that make it not easy. For example, you have a whole bunch of people that are going to be jealous of you. You probably don't know who your real friends are, because people are going to hang out with you just because they want to use you for things. If you have a spouse and they're a billionaire, you're probably going to put up with a lot of people trying to, get the person to leave you and go to them and do all. There's a whole bunch of things that come along with certain amounts of money that would not make your life easier in the end. But if you're content with what God gives you, if you don't have a lot, but you're content in that moment, you will also learn how to be content when He does give you a lot, and you'll be able to handle it better. But you have to be able to be happy in the moment, or at least learn how to be content with what you're given. And it's okay if you never get any more. It's okay. It's okay, because God has determined that that's what is best for you. And if you trust the Father, if you love the Father, then you will trust that He's making the best decisions for you, right? So the same thing with the spouse, going back to the spouse. If somebody else has a prettier spouse, that doesn't mean that their life is better than yours, right? Maybe that other person's putting up with a lot of men like hitting on her. Maybe the person, you never know, maybe the other person, the girl that looks very pretty, she's cheating. Like, you never know. You never know what's going on in someone else's yard. You never know what's going on in someone else's bank account. You never know what's going on in these other people's lives. But you are not supposed to be looking at everyone else and comparing your life to theirs. That will lead you to a life of being not content. I can tell you that right now. You will never be content if you're always looking at what somebody else has. Because guess what? There's always going to be somebody that's got more money than you. There's always going to be somebody that's got, a better looking spouse, a more wealthy spouse. There's always going to be somebody that has more success in their career. There's always going to be somebody who, got a new career and it's better. There will always be somebody more famous. There will always be somebody that's in better health. There will always be somebody who has a better body. You cannot always be on the top. It's not possible. And you can't be on the top for every single thing. So if you're always going to be constantly looking around you and comparing, you will never be content. You will never know what true joy is. You will never be grateful, because you're going to always be trying to search for more. And it's some endless black hole void that you're never going to be able to be filled. You will never be filled up with joy, contentment, peace. You will never live in peace. You're going to be like the guy that's, trying to store up all of this wealth, and then eventually he's going to enjoy himself right He's storing up all the wealth in the I can't remember which book it is, but I know it's the New Testament. I don't know if it's Mark, Matthew, Luke, or John, but it's in one of those. Okay, and the guy's storing up all of this stuff in his barns, and then God comes to him and he's like, hey, your life is being taken away from you today. And then that guy looks back and he's like, man, what was I working so hard for and doing all that stuff for? It's crazy, right? Because he didn't learn contentment. He was constantly trying to build more, build wealth, build it. And in the end, he didn't even get to enjoy it because it was never enough. He felt like, I need to store more, I need to store more, I need to store up more. And it was never enough. Learn how to be content with what God gives you in the moment. It doesn't mean that he's not going to give you more. It doesn't mean that there's not something better that's coming. But you need to learn how to be content with what he says is okay in the moment that you're in right now. Because that's going to give you joy. That's going to give you peace. That's going to give you trust. That's going to give you faith in the Father. Because he loves you. And he needs you to learn how to be content. Because even if he gave you $1 billion, if you're not content, guess what that $1 billion is going to do? Not make you content. So learn how to have contentment and peace and joy and live that type of life, okay? So anyways, like, share, and subscribe and comment as always, and I will see you guys back here next time.